Alberto Costa.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I would also like to join the Prime Minister in offering the condolences of the people of South Leicestershire and myself to the individuals and their families. Mr Speaker, strong countries need strong economies. Yes. Strong countries need strong defences. Yes. Strong countries need strong leaders. Yes. As the nation prepares to go to the polls, apart from my right honourable friend, who else in this House can provide the leadership that is needed at this time?
My honourable friend is absolutely right. There are three things that a country needs: a strong economy, strong defence and strong, stable leadership. That's what our plans for Brexit and our plans for a stronger Britain will deliver. And that's what the Conservative Party will be offering at this election. And we will be out there fighting for every vote. Whereas the right honourable gentleman opposite would bankrupt our economy, weaken our defences and is simply not fit to lead.
Jeremy Corbyn! Thank you, Mr Speaker. Thank you, Mr Speaker. I concur with the condolences the Prime Minister just sent to the families of those three people who so sadly and needlessly died, and it's important we recognise that as a cross-party proposal today. And I thank the Prime Minister for that. Mr Speaker, we welcome the general election, but this is a Prime Minister who promised there wouldn't be one. A Prime Minister who cannot be trusted. She says it's about leadership, yet is refusing to defend her record in television debates. And it's not hard to see why. The Prime Minister says we have a stronger economy. Yet she can't explain why people's wages are lower today than they were 10 years ago, or why more households are in debt, 6 million people earning less than the living wage, child poverty is up, pensioner poverty is up. So why are so many people getting poorer?
Well, I can assure the right honourable gentleman. First of all, I would point out to the right honourable gentleman that I have been answering his questions and debating these matters every Wednesday that Parliament has been sitting since I became Prime Minister. And I will be taking out to the country in this campaign a proud record of a Conservative government. A stronger economy, an economy with a deficit nearly two-thirds down, with 30 million people with a tax cut, 4 million people taken out of income tax altogether, record levels of employment and £1,250 more a year for pensioners. That's a record we can be proud of.
Mr Speaker, if she's so proud of her record, why won't she debate it? Wages are falling. More children are in poverty. And the last Tory manifesto, page 28, said, "We will work to eliminate child poverty." They only eliminated the child poverty targets, not child poverty. In 2010, they promised to eradicate the deficit by 2015. In 2015, they had promised to eradicate the deficit by 2020. Austerity has failed. So does the Prime Minister know which year the deficit will now be eradicated?
The right honourable gentleman, I know it's taken the right honourable gentleman a little time to get the hang of these Prime Minister's questions, but I have to say to him that week in and week out, he stands up and asks me questions, and I respond to those questions. And what we're with a stronger...
Order! Order! The Leader of the Opposition must be heard, and the Prime Minister must be heard. The Prime Minister.
A stronger economy with the deficit two-thirds down, but people will have a real choice at this election. They will have a choice between a Conservative government that has shown we can build a stronger economy and a Labour Party whose economic policy would bankrupt this country. And what voters know is that under Labour, it's ordinary working people who pay the price of the Labour Party. They pay it with their taxes, they pay it with their jobs, and they pay it with their children's futures.
Only this year, the new Chancellor pledged to eradicate the deficit by 2022. I do admire Tory consistency. It's always 5 years in the future. Another Tory broken promise. The Prime Minister leads a government that's increased national debt by £700 billion, more than every other Labour government in history put together. Debt has risen every year they've been in office. We know their economic plan was long-term. Does the Prime Minister want to tell us how far into the long term it will be before we get the debt falling?
The right honourable gentleman stands up and talks about a debt. This is a Labour Party that will be going into the election pledged to borrow an extra £500 billion. And what does that mean for ordinary working people? Well, I'll tell the right honourable gentleman what it means. We know what Labour's plans would entail because we've been told by the former Labour Shadow Chancellor. He said the following: if Labour were in power, you'd have to double income tax, you'd have to double national insurance, you'd have to double council tax, and you'd have to double VAT as well. That's Labour's plan for the economy.
Jeremy Corbyn!
All her government has delivered, Mr. Speaker, is more debt and less funding for schools and hospitals. Schools funding being cut for the first time in a generation. The Prime Minister is cutting £3 billion a year from school budgets by 2020. She says they've created a stronger economy. So why are there tax giveaways to the richest corporations while our children's schools are starved of the resources they need to educate our children for the future?
He talks about levels of funding into schools and the NHS. There are record levels of funding going into schools and record levels of funding going into the NHS. But let's just talk about schools, because it's not just a question of funding, it's actually a question of the quality of education provided in the schools. 1.8 million more children are in good or outstanding schools under this Conservative government. That's 1.8 million more children with a better chance for their futures. What would Labour give us? The same old one-size-fits-all local authority-run schools. No choice, good or bad, trust your luck. We don't trust to luck, and we won't trust the Labour Party. We'll provide a good school place for every child.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Parents taking their children back to school for the summer term, many will receive a letter from the school begging for funds to buy books and fund the school. The Conservative manifesto promised the amount of money following your child into school will be protected. It isn't. It's another Tory broken promise. For the first time in its history, Mr. Speaker, NHS funding per pupil, per patient will fall this year. The NHS has been put into an all-year-round crisis by this government. Why are more people waiting in pain and millions of elderly people not getting the care and the dignity that they deserve?
Well, I'm proud of the record we have on the NHS. We see more doctors, more nurses, more midwives, more GPs, more people being treated in our National Health Service last year than ever before, and record levels of funding going into our National Health Service. You only can do that with a strong economy. What do we know we'd get from the Labour Party? Bankruptcy and chaos.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, that's a very good reason why we should have a debate about it. Because that is another Tory broken promise. A broken promise of the Tory manifesto, which said they will continue to spend more on the NHS in real terms. Say that to those waiting at A&E departments. Say that to those that can't leave hospital because social care is not available. Mr. Speaker, isn't the truth that over the last 7 years the Tories have broken every promise on living standards, the deficit, debt, the National Health Service and schools funding? Why should anyone believe a word they say over the next 7 weeks?
I can assure the right honourable gentleman that I will be out campaigning and taking to voters the message of the record of this Conservative government, but crucially of our plans to make Brexit a success and to build a stronger Britain for the future. And every vote for the Conservatives will make it harder for those who want to stop me from getting the job done. Every vote for the Conservatives will make me stronger when I negotiate for Britain with the European Union. And every vote for the Conservatives will mean we can stick to our plan for a stronger Britain and take the right long-term decisions for a more secure future for this country.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For years, I've been campaigning for fairer funding in Wiltshire schools. Will the Prime Minister please reaffirm her commitment to this and to a review of pupil premium to encompass other forms of key disadvantagement, such as being a young carer, mental health problems and bereavement? This way, we can create a country that will work for everyone.
I know that my honourable friend, she raises a very important point. I know that she has campaigned long and hard in her constituency and worked hard for her constituents on this and other issues. What we do want to ensure is that young people, irrespective of their background, have the opportunity to make the most of their talents. And the point of our reforms is to try to end the postcode lottery in school funding and support our plan for a fairer society where success is based on merit and not on privilege. She refers to the pupil premium. That is, of course, worth £2.5 billion a year. It's an important part of our policy because it does give schools extra support for pupils from disadvantaged backgrounds. But I think it's right that schools are best placed to prioritise the needs of their pupils and can use their funding to ensure that they're supporting any pupil facing disadvantage, financial or otherwise.
Angus Robertson.
May I join in the condolences extended by the Prime Minister and the leader of the Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, the tone and content of democratic debates, including a general election, is very important to all of us. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that political opponents are not saboteurs and that all elected mainstream parties and parliamentarians have a mandate and that should be respected?
In this House and in this Parliament, it is right that we have proper debate and scrutiny of proposals that are put forward by the government, and that arguments on both sides of the House are rightly challenged, and those discussions take place. But I say to the right honourable gentleman that what the British people, what the people of the United Kingdom voted for last year was for the UK to leave the European Union. We have set that process in motion. There is no turning back. But it is clear from statements that have been made by the Scottish nationalists and others that they do want to use this House to try to frustrate that process. I will be asking the British people for a mandate to complete Brexit and to make a success of it.
Robertson.
Speaker, it's disappointing the Prime Minister didn't take the opportunity to condemn intemperate language in describing other democratic politicians as well. There's heckling.
There's heckling from the other side, and I think the Prime Minister should take the opportunity to underline something that we should all agree on, that describing people in the way that we've read in some daily newspapers by leading politicians is not acceptable. But, Mr. Speaker, most people know that the reason why we are actually having a general election is because of the woeful state of the Labour Party. If the Prime Minister is so confident that our hard Brexit, pro-austerity, anti-immigration case is right, then she should debate it with opposition leaders during the campaign. We look forward to the straight fight between the SNP and the Tories. Can the Prime Minister tell the people why she's running scared of a televised debate with Nicola Sturgeon?
First of all, can I say to the right honourable gentleman, one of the crucial things we have in this country that underpins our democracy is a free press. And I believe that is important, and I believe people in this chamber should stand up for the freedom of the press. And as to the TV debates, I can assure the right honourable gentleman that I will be out there campaigning in every part of the United Kingdom, taking out there our proud record of a Conservative government that has delivered for every part of the United Kingdom. And I might suggest to the Scottish nationalists that actually now is the time for them to put aside... Yes, wait for it. Now is the time for them to put aside their tunnel vision on independence and actually explain to the Scottish people why under the SNP they're not putting as much money into the health service as they've been given from the UK. They're not exercising the powers they've been given, and Scottish education is getting worse. It's time they got back to the day job.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Could I join with the Prime Minister with the expressions of condolence led by the Prime Minister earlier on? This election can change the direction of our country. From the consequences of potential hard Brexit outside the single market to the future of our NHS and social care, our schools and our environment. The British public deserve to hear the party leaders set out their plans and debate them publicly. But the Prime Minister has refused to take part in televised leaders' debates. The Prime Minister and I, back in 1992, debated publicly, forcibly and amicably when we were both candidates together. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, indeed, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister called out the then incumbent who did not show up for some of those debates. Why will she not debate those issues publicly now? What is she scared of?
I can assure the honourable gentleman that I will be debating these issues publicly across the country, as will every single member of the Conservative team. We will be taking a proud record of a Conservative government, but more than that, we'll be taking our plans for the future of this country, for making Brexit a success and for delivering a stronger Britain. And he talks about the possibility of changing the future of this country. What do we know that the leader of the Labour Party, the leader of the Liberal Democrats and the leader of the Scottish Nationalists have in common? Corbyn, Farron and Sturgeon. They want to unite together to divide our country, and we will not let them do it.
John Stevenson! Vic Cooper.
The Prime Minister yesterday said she was calling a general election because Parliament was blocking Brexit. But 3/4 of MPs and 2/3 of the Lords voted for Article 50. So that's not true, is it? And a month ago, she told her official spokesman to rule out an early general election, and that wasn't true either, was it? She wants us to believe that she is a woman of her word. Isn't the truth that we cannot believe a single word?
The House is rather overexcited. The question has been heard. The answer will be heard. The Prime Minister.
This House and this Parliament voted to trigger Article 50. But the Labour Party made it clear that they were thinking of voting against the final deal. The Scottish nationalists, the Scottish nationalists have said that they will vote against the legislation necessary to leave the European Union. The Liberal Democrats say they're going to grind government to a standstill, and the House of Lords have threatened to stop us every inch of the way. I think it is right now to ask the British people to put their trust in me and the Conservative Party to deliver on their vote last year a Brexit plan that will make a success for this country and deliver a stronger, fairer global Britain in the future.
Scully! Dennis Skinner.
Will the Prime Minister give a guarantee that no Tory MP who is under investigation by the police and the legal authorities over election expenses in the last general election be a candidate in this election? Because if she won't accept that, this is the most squalid election campaign that has happened in my lifetime.
I stand by all the Conservative MPs who are in this House and who will be out there standing again, campaigning for a Conservative government that will give a brighter and better future for this country.
Richard Benyon!